Only 5 countries accounted for 76% of all weapons exports from 2015 to 2019: the United States, Russia, France, Germany, and China. According to the current data by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the United States is the top leader in arms sales worldwide, with 36% of the total and up to 96 clients. The United States. According to the current data by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the United States is the top leader in arms sales worldwide, with 36% of the total and up to 96 clients. However, the Middle East accounted for half of its exports, with Saudi Arabia contributing 25%. In 2019, the U.S. Congress considered imposing certain restrictions on arms sales to Saudi Arabia. However, Donald Trump and the Saudi monarchy overcame these difficulties and ensured the supply of weapons that fed Saudi Arabia's aggressive growth in the region. Between 2017 and 2021, India and Saudi Arabia were the top importers of significant weaponry, accounting for 11% and 9% of the world market. Egypt came in second, with 5.7% of the market. According to SIPRI data, the Middle East accounted for 47% of U.S. exports, with Saudi Arabia accounting for 24% of total exports. The Asia-Pacific region received 27%, Europe and Central Asia received 16%, South Asia received 5.4%, Africa received 2.7%, and other countries in the Americas received 2.6%. Russia. After the United States, Russia is the world's second largest arms exporter, accounting for around 20% worldwide weapon shipments. Moscow supplied $28 billion worth of weapons to 45 countries between 2016 and 2020. Nearly 90% of Russia's weaponry is sent to 10 countries. While the United States has increased its market share in recent years, Russia has declined. It has gone from the driving force behind 27% of all arms exports to monopolizing 21%. The main reason is a drop in demand in India, which stopped ordering 47% of the weapons from Russia between 2010 and 2014. Russia has 5,977 nuclear weapons, while the U.S. has 5,428. Russia and the U.S. both have roughly 1,600 operational deployed strategic nuclear warheads as of 2022. Moreover, the Russian stockpile is rising, while the U.S. stockpile is declining. France. Russia has purchased military weapons worth 152 million euros from France. According to Investigate Europe's findings, France exports 44% of European armaments to Russia, far ahead of its neighbors. Moreover, France delivered cutting-edge military equipment to Russia between 2015 and 2020. As a result, Vladimir Putin has been able to modernize 1,000 tanks, fighter planes, and combat helicopters with this technology, which may be employed in the Ukrainian conflict. China. China's arms exports account for a minor percentage of global arms sales, roughly 5% of international arms exports in the last decade. China's arms exports are still small compared to the United States and Russia. Deep-sea drones, ballistic missiles, tanks, and fighter jets are displayed in military parades, and on occasions, like the Communist Party's centennial celebrations, demonstrating China's expanding military might. While China has increasingly moved toward producing its military gear, much of its imported armament still originates from Russia. This relationship dates back to the Cold War's end in the 1990s. In addition, several other European countries contribute to China's military equipment stockpile. After Russia, France, 9.7%, and Ukraine, 9.7%, were China's following most significant sources of weaponry from 2016 to 2020, 6.3%. Germany. In 2021, Germany's arms exports set a new high, with Egypt accounting for little under half of the total. The new Traffic Light Coalition administration wants more regulation, according to the ministry in charge. According to official numbers announced on Monday, arms shipments to Egypt lifted Germany's weapons exports to record levels in 2021. A total of 5.95 billion euros was spent on so-called third countries that were not on the list. Egypt was the biggest spender, with 4.34 billion euros worth of products, mostly air defense systems and naval equipment, exported to the country. Italy. Most Italian weaponry is sold to countries outside the EU and NATO. Qatar, Turkmenistan, and Saudi Arabia are among the top 10 buyers. Italy's armaments exports are expected to reach $806 million in 2020. Even though Italy's arms exports have changed significantly in recent years, over the previous 15 years, Italy's arms export production has climbed to 1.4% of GDP, further fueling continuing armed conflicts throughout the world. Egypt is the top buyer of weapon systems exported by Italian military businesses for the second year. Despite the terrible abuses of human rights and non-cooperation in the Regeni and Zaki instances, armed trade with the autocratic al-Sisi administration continues to thrive. The United Kingdom. The UK is the world's second largest exporter of defense items. Between 2011 and 2020, the Middle East received 60% of UK defense exports, followed by North America, 17%, and Europe, 15%. 15%? Saudi Arabia has been the top importer of guns from the United Kingdom over the previous 5 years, much more than the second and third places, Oman and the United States. Despite Israel's unlawful occupation of the Palestinian West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem since 1967, the UK has continued to sell weaponry to it. Between 2011 and 2020, the Middle East received 60% of UK defense exports, followed by North America, 17%, and Europe, 15%. 15%. South Korea. South Korea was the 8th largest arms exporter between 2016 and 2020, accounting for 2.7% of global defense exports. It was more than 3 times the country's share in the previous 5 years. Moon's efforts to modernize military systems and optimize their deployment within South Korea have contributed significantly to the country's export growth. Excess capacity can now be sold abroad, as the domestic military market has been flooded with cutting-edge equipment from both foreign and domestic providers. In February 2022, South Korea set a new milestone by selling $1.7 billion worth of K9s to Egypt, marking the first time the country's defense sector had set foot on the African continent. As a result, the K9 now accounts for more than half of the world's self-propelled artillery market. In addition, 50% of South Korea's arms exports came from Asia and Oceania, while 24% came from Europe and 17% came from the Middle East. Spain. Spain's arms exports totaled $1,201 million in 2020. Though Spain's arms exports have fluctuated significantly in recent years, they have tended to rise from 1971 to 2020, reaching $1,201 million in 2020. Our computerized data aid crafted the description. In 2017, Spain supplied around 361 million euros worth of armaments to nations actively participating in the multinational coalition fighting Yemen, led by Saudi Arabia. Spain sold 270.2 million euros worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia, then supplied to countries such as Bahrain. Military weapons are prohibited other than revolvers, pistols, and the arms of heading 93.07. 9301 Commodity Group exports military weapons other than revolvers, pistols, and guns of heading 93.07, accounted for 0.002% of overall exports from Spain. Total merchandise exports from Spain in 2020 were $312 billion. Israel. IMI, sometimes known as TAZ, is an Israeli weapons manufacturer. It primarily produces firearms, ammunition, and military technology for Israeli security forces, particularly Israel's army, the Israel Defense Forces or IDF, though its small arms are well known worldwide. Aside from Israel's own arms industry, the United States is Israel's largest arms supplier. However, several other countries, particularly Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom, are key suppliers. The United States and Europe hold the majority of exports. Epilogue. The most visible negative impact of the arms trade on health is the death and injury caused by weapons in conflicts. When a large portion of a country's resources are diverted to military spending, it harms its health and human services. The arms trade frequently causes human rights violations. Some governments spend more on defense than they do on social development, communications infrastructure, and combined healthcare. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to our channel before you go.